Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's great to have all of you from Europe Hotel School here for this part of your online learning journey. Today, we're going to get into something that is absolutely critical for your career, the financial controls that are, well, the bedrock of any successful food and beverage operation. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through the 5 key pillars of financial integrity. First, we'll lay the groundwork with the foundation of control. Then, we'll talk about securing your daily revenue, getting a handle on invoice processing, and of course, protecting your core assets. And we'll wrap it all up by looking at the professional discipline that makes it all work. Ready? Let's jump in. You know, every hotel goes through this massive shift, moving from all the planning and theory of a pre-opening to the day-to-day chaos of a live business. And that right there, that's the moment when all those plans on paper have to become real. It's why having strict, documented financial controls is completely non-negotiable. So what are these controls really all about? Well, they have 3 huge jobs. First up, they safeguard the company's assets. And I mean everything, from the cash in the register to that expensive steak in the freezer. Second, and this is a big one, they prevent fraud. And third, they make sure that every single dollar, whether it's coming in or going out, is reported with 100% accuracy. These aren't just good ideas, they're the fundamental rules of the business. Okay, let's tackle our first pillar, securing your daily revenue. Every single day, in every restaurant, every bar, every outlet, there has to be a rock-solid process to account for every single transaction. We call this the end of day, or EOD closeout. Now let's break this down, because each step here creates a chain of accountability. First, you tally up all your payments and match them perfectly to the system report. No room for error. Then, you have to reconcile any exceptions. Why? Because every single void or discount needs a manager's signature on it to prove it was legit. The flash report then gives you a quick snapshot of how you did. And here's the kicker. Only a manager with the right security clearance can do the final closeout before that report gets sent up the ladder. And this just shows you the kind of discipline we're talking about. The service level agreement, the SLA, is crystal clear. Get that report in by 9 a.m. the next morning. No ifs, ands, or buts. And why so strict? Look, this isn't just busy work. Management needs that data, and they need it fast to make smart decisions about today's business based on what happened yesterday. So, we've locked down the money coming in. Now we have to flip the coin and talk about the other side, controlling the money going out. This is all about managing what we owe and making sure every penny we spend is verified, approved, and accounted for correctly. And the cornerstone principle for this is something called separation of duties. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. The person who orders the supplies can't be the same person who checks them in, and they definitely can't be the person who approves paying the bill. This simple rule is your #1 defense against fraud. It stops someone from, say, creating a fake invoice for a delivery that never happened and then paying themselves. This table shows you exactly how that journey works. It all starts with the 3-way match. The F&B manager has to check that the purchase order, the receiving report, and the actual invoice all line up. Think about it. The PO is what you asked for, the receiving report is what you got, and the invoice is what they're charging you for. If those 3 things don't match perfectly, you don't pay. Simple as that. From there, it gets coded correctly for the accountants, and then, only then, does it get a final sign-off for payment. Every step is a deliberate check and balance. So if you kind of zoom out for a second, you can see how these 2 systems work together to create this complete financial picture. Revenue controls are all about obsessively tracking every dollar coming in, while expenditure controls are just as rigorous about every dollar going out. It's that daily focus on both sides that gives leadership a financial report they can actually trust. Okay, let's move on. We've talked about the numbers on the spreadsheets, but what about the physical stuff? We have actual, tangible assets that need to be protected. This next part is all about the rules for keeping your inventory and your cash safe and sound. The rules for physical security are straightforward, but they have to be absolute. Any little bit of petty cash going out, it needs a signed watcher. No debate. All the cash you brought in for the day, it goes in a locked safe, period. Your expensive stuff like premium liquor or prime cuts of meat gets locked up. And the key that ties it all together is that access to any of these places is strictly, and I mean strictly, limited to only the people who are supposed to be there. And this brings us to our final pillar, which, might just be the most important one of all. These controls, they aren't just a to-do list for the accounting team. They're a mindset. They represent a discipline that has to be woven into the very fabric of daily leadership.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Filling out vouchers and matching invoices can feel tedious sometimes. But having the discipline to enforce these rules day in and day out, that's what separates a good manager from a great one. It is truly the hallmark of a professional.
So why do we obsess over all this? What's the bottom line? It's because this focus on controls is what stops tiny little financial leaks from turning into huge, gaping holes that can sink the business. It's about protecting your profitability, one small disciplined action at a time. So, to wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question. As you start to picture yourself in a leadership role, I want you to think about this. Which of these controls we've talked about, which one do you think would be the toughest to enforce with your team every single day? Really thinking through that practical challenge. That's your next step on the path to becoming a true professional in this industry. Thanks for your time today.